trap. I'ma be chilling with my mother crew. I'ma be making all the
Yeah, I spent yesterday looking at on PBS, which the Senate last night voted to defund, or the House, and it's going over the Senate, which is just beyond heinous as far as I'm concerned. But I spent it looking at the documentary that Ken Burns did on the West. And, I've been dealing with this stuff for 43 years, and I am constantly reading and looking at stuff and, keeping up with whatever's going on because it all changes all the time. And when I looked at that series, and it's probably maybe a 6 or 7 part series, it really, I believe the universe sends me what I need when I need it. It really put in perspective for me in a lot of different ways what it is that I've been doing and how it fits into where I am, and that is in the United States. Because when you look at that history of moving west, and you see this country moving west, the decisions of the government to move west, how that interacted with the individual decisions to move west, sometimes totally without the government at all, which means that you've lost control already. What happened when you moved all of those people who had lived for generations in Mexico when it was Mexico and not a part of the United States? What happened when it did become a part of the United States and those people got pushed out or absolutely marginalized, totally pushed to the margins? Or Native Americans, of course, getting wiped out all together. And it was such a good series because it didn't just deal with, say, the pioneers coming across. I mean, it dealt with all sorts of aspects. What happened to the land? What happened to the environment? What happened to the people who were on the land? What was happening in DC? How did the wars impact all of this? And I have to tell you that one of the saddest things that I came away with was, and I hate this because this is work I was sent here to do, and I have to keep doing it. But looking at just that, say, and we'll just say it was 200, although it was actually a little bit less than that year period, it's like, this is who these folks are. They're part of what they came here with as immigrants is that we are now, especially now that we're out from under those repressive sort of monarchies that they came from in Europe, we are going to just go for it and do whatever we want to do. It doesn't matter who we hurt in that process. And one guy in particular who used buffalo as his whole thing, getting the hides and stuff when he became a millionaire over this stuff, finally said, I said, because he had killed off all the buffalo, which of course meant that Native Americans were now in trouble, but they were being moved out anyway. And he said, I wonder if I did this because I really just thought people wanted these buffalo hides, or did I do it because I just wanted the money and I didn't care what happened in the process? And he thought about it for a minute and then he said, you know what? I think the truth is I really did it for the latter reason. And the truth is, if that is what we're operating with, the dollar is the bottom line no matter what, and it's white males who have to be the ones who are getting that, then what we're doing right now is just another part of that system. What we're seeing right now is just a continuation of the same sort of idea of who these folks are, which means it doesn't mean don't, stop doing the work you're doing. It's like it's needed more now than ever, but it does give it a greater context in which you realize, oh, this is not just a situation. This isn't just a time we're in. This is like this is who we are. You're going to have to deal with that aspect of it. This is who we are. How does it fit into that as opposed to fitting into, oh, this is what is happening at this time?
Welcome, everyone. We are talking to a fantastic person that is part of my aunt's history, which is she was one of her professors during university days, and they've kept in touch over the years. Her personality and her warmth, love, and apparently like a
Humor.
attitude, humor, right? The deadpan face, the straight person. That is her, and she's here to join us on our podcast. Welcome, Megumi Shimamaura.
Thank you. You had it.
Shimamura. Did I have it right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got it right. Thank God. Okay. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Hi,
Thanks.
Megumi.
It's very good to see Dr. BA again, and then Renee, it's very nice to see you too. I know we've been exchanging emails, so.
Yeah, and getting me on my toes because of stuff. I keep messing up, but thanks for being so patient with me.
Oh, no problem. No. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh,
And you graduated in like 2010?
Yes, December 2010.
From undergraduate school.
Right.
And we have been texting ever since.
Yes.
About everything that's going on. And
anything crazy we see.
And if I need a laugh, I know you will give me a funny response to some that I send you, and you always do. So you were one of the people I thought about.
Oh,
I'm sorry. What was that,
Renee?
I was going to ask if you would give our interviewer or give our audience the story that you gave me about how you met Megumi, or how you decided that she was going to have to be a person that's in your life for good.
I can't remember which story I told you.
But in class, there was some kind of debate in class.
Oh no!
What did I say?
That wasn't Megumi. She would not have spoken like that.
Oh, I thought that was Megumi.
I was very quiet during class, I think.
Which is why it was such a surprise that we would still be in touch. I have taught thousands of students. But first of all, I never forgot her name, Megumi Shimamaura, and came across recently, like within the last few months. Remember, I texted you about it, Megumi. I had a Japanese fighting fish, I think it was, that somebody had given me or something.
Oh, right, yes, the beta fish.
Shimamura, because it just reminded me of the way that it moved. And you also introduced me, and this is way back when.
Right.
I still have the little tiny thumb drive that you gave me, because it was the smallest one I'd ever seen. And I said to you, when you came up to me after class to ask me something, and I saw that hanging on your keychain, and I said, "What is that? Why would you have that on your keychain?" And you said, "Oh, well, it's a jump drive." And I'm like, "What? It's so little." And then you brought me one, and I still have it to this day, and kept it on my keychain until it literally fell off because the black cord broke. Then it went in the cabinet right there where I could see it. That is how impactful you were without even saying a whole lot in class, Megumi. That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. I am really surprised that you remembered me all these years. 15 years?
Yeah.
Since you graduated, but you went earlier than that, right? So
true, yes. I think it was sophomore year I had you, so.
I didn't usually teach sophomores. I taught juniors and graduates. So junior year at the latest.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
So yeah, even earlier than that, because that's when you graduated.
Yes.
So that's a long time. But it also impressed me because when you did say something, which was rare, it was always so impactful and really made people think. And that's exactly the way it is when we text each other. You know, things that I just haven't thought about. Plus, you have insights, and I love cultural insights that really teach me about a group that I may not necessarily be as familiar with. And in fact, you were who I sent my manuscript to, Renee, for our book that part of the Quilt Journeys Mystery Series that was Nikiko's quilt. And your input was invaluable, and some of the stuff that you shared went into the book, directly into the book.
I saw it.
told me about, what it was like when you were growing up. And I don't think you told me expecting that it would be there. I not have had that as part of the journey of my characters. So
I told my parents, I told my mom, dad, my brother, I told everyone.
you did? Oh
I
my
did.
God. Well, that would be exciting, wouldn't it?
It's very exciting.
Wow.
You deserved
Yeah.
every bit of it because what sort of struck me about what you were saying was that you again, when you speak, it's in a very powerful way and
Oh,
very impactful. And the things that you said, I knew I had heard pieces of from students before, but
okay.
as simply as you put it, it was just it had such an impact that it brought all of that back, and I knew that
Mm,
putting it there would resonate because it was like I had heard it before, students had said it, but when you put it the
Mhm.
way you did, something like even stashing your lunch because you didn't wanna have this Japanese
oh,
lunch when
mm,
everybody else had peanut butter, I
Mhm.
mean, that was just like, "Ugh, this is what diversity is about. Like, why isn't it okay with us?" And we learn from as a young kid that she has a lunch
Mhm.
that's different from ours. That
mm,
that was just
Let's
so
check it out. Let's figure out what that is, because kids are all,
yeah,
curious like that. And then you start to stifle them early on.
right.
We get the adults that we expect because we've
they
stifled
take
them.
so much from us without us ever even thinking consciously that
Mhm.
they are or that we said it to them. But they see our faces, they see
Right.
who's in our house, they see our
Mhm,
reactions to stuff, and
Yeah,
they pick it up. And
exactly.
instead of being just curious the way kids tend to be, they end up rejecting it and making you end up sort of making yourself smaller to try to fit in
right.
their world, when the truth is, look at you, look at me, look at Renee. We ain't never gonna look like you. Okay? We look the way we look, and that's perfectly fine. Thank you very much. But at such a
Mhm.
young age, they have learned to reject that. And that's part of why the idea of sort of getting rid of DEI makes no sense whatsoever. If anything,
Exactly.
we need to beef it up.
Right.
Yeah. And the rejection is worse. Not just rejection, it's the hatred. It's the taking it to the next step and making sure that people who don't look like you
Mhm.
or do the same things you do should be somehow vilified. Um,
Right, and then sometimes you turn that inwards on yourself. You start
mhm,
hating yourself and part of who you are, and that's even
right.
sadder.
Yeah. And sometimes one of the things that allows that to happen, and this can be cultural too, is the lack of conversations around it. Different
Right,
cultures have different ways of communicating and different things they communicate about. And
Mhm,
if the sort of overall cultural idea is that we don't talk about these things, and every culture has those things, but some emphasize certain things more than others that we don't
right,
talk about,
right.
especially if you come from a culture where you're expected to fit in.
Mm,
Bring you over here. We didn't have you born here so that you could be an outsider. The whole idea was to
mhm,
be an insider. So if you get that message, right? You get that message. So it's like, well, if I'm not fitting in, I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell you that because, like, I know you don't want me to do that. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but over the
mhm.
years, that's part of what I have been told.
I think it's common through not just Japanese Americans or Asian Americans, but just immigrants in general. They kinda have that expectation from their parents that they have to be engineers or lawyers or doctors, and that's kind of the trifecta of what you're supposed to strive towards.
Really? Well, that's gonna put you right in the middle of everybody hating you. And that's gonna mean you gotta be a really good student, right? In order to be
Right,
able to do
it's
that.
I think a lot of immigrant parents, they have really, really high expectations for their kids because they went through all that trouble of bringing their
Mhm,
family over here and starting a whole new life, and if your kids aren't successful, then in some ways, I think the parents they might
that's
blame themselves. And
Yeah. You know, we actually had, I don't know whether it was your class or not, but in one of my classes, one of the questions that came up in those questions that we have in the employment law class, everything you always wanted to
right.
know,
Mm,
somebody asked about Asian students making good grades. Why do they, that's a very common question. It happens all the time. Why are they so smart? Are they really smarter than we are? All forms of that question. And I had a student who came up to me afterwards one day and said, when he saw the handout, "Can I answer this question?" And that was pretty unusual. And I said, "Absolutely, you can answer that question. You know, I'll bring it up and have at it." And when he finished what he had to say, there was absolute silence in the room because it was so, it just hit everybody in their heart. He
mm,
talked about the journey of parents who bring themselves over here so they can have kids, have a better life, live the American dream that we broadcast or used to before AID was shut
right.
down all over the world. And he said, you grow up as a kid knowing that. And because of it,
Mhm,
you feel this burden, and it's not a heaviness.
mhm,
It's really just, it's part of what you operate in the world with, because part of what you're thinking is, I can't fail this test. My parents came over here
right,
for
right,
me to have a better life, and in order to honor them, to honor their journey, I have to do this. And he
right,
said that
yeah,
makes it so when you're doing it, although there were times when it felt sort of burdensome, right? Because you're living in two worlds, really. He said the truth is, it really felt okay. You felt like you were doing what you needed to do because of
mhm.
what they had gone through for you.
Right,
And
it's sort of this sense of
yeah.
obligation. It's if you don't live your life to your fullest potential, then you're letting your family down.
Mhm.
That Asian parent disappointment that a lot of people talk about, it's real for a reason. Yep, it's
Mhm.
pretty it's heavy. But,
And, you know, when I think about it, like my children, you know, they say, "Are you trying to make me feel guilty?" No, I'm just giving you, I'm contextualizing what you're doing.
mm,
And that
yeah,
really is what your parents are doing. You know, we really
right,
did come over here for you to have a better life. Of course, your
right.
takeaway as a kid is, "You're trying to guilt trip me here," and it feels awful.
Yeah, it's not the best feeling, but the guilt trip is half of it. But the other half is that you have somebody expecting a lot from you, and sometimes that's a nice feeling. Oh, they're expecting a lot from me because they know that I can do better.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I guess it's a form of someone believing in you, but
Mhm.
sometimes it turns into guilt trip and
Mhm.
other times it motivates you. It's a little bit of half and half.
Yeah. You know, one of the reasons I'm in this work is my dad, when I first moved to Florida to create the course in employment law and teach it, I came back that December for Christmas, and I was telling him how weird it was to be in Florida with these black people that, you know, just sort of gave all this deference to whites. And I had grown up in DC, and
Mm,
I'd like never seen that before. And, you know, they wouldn't look whites in the eye, and people would always, you know, I dealt with people the way they were human beings, right? And white folks would say, "You're not from here, are you?" It's and I learned a lesson of, you don't look me straight in the eye when I'm talking to you. It's really
Mhm.
bizarre. So I was talking to him about this, and he said, "What are you gonna do about it?" And I'm like, "Did he hear what I said?" Like, why would that be an appropriate response to what I just told him, right? And I
mm,
thought about it because that was very much not like my dad to not respond to what it was I was saying in a way that I would have thought made sense. And finally, it hit me weeks later. He thought I could do something about it.
mm.
Mhm.
He thought I could do something about it. And I never looked back. And here you are, right? Still working on that 43 years later because he said those words. So, yeah, it can really be a spurrer for you.
Mhm.
Feels good to think somebody has that kind of confidence in you.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel about what's going on now? Does it feel like it is making things better, making things worse in the DEI space? Do
It's
you feel it at all?
I haven't had any personal. I think everything's been quite subtle. I haven't had any like outright personal, like specific experiences I can speak about, but it's I I think it's opened up some people feel like it's more okay to make racial jokes or even in the workplace too. I feel like some people feel more comfortable doing that now,
Really?
Do
which
you
is
understand why?
crazy. I'm sorry, what is it?
Do you understand why? What would
Because
make you think
they see the media, they see other people getting away with it. They see it as being something that's slowly becoming more accepted, which is not good.
that?
But they see that happen, and I think they just they go for it, they get away with it, and then they just keep repeating that behavior because there's no repercussion, there's no
Right.
nobody takes them to HR. We actually don't have an HR in our office at our location. There's a corporate HR in a different state on on the other side of the coast, but
Well, that's a pretty good deterrent. You can't just
yeah,
run down to HR, right?
yeah.
Goodness.
Do you get the feeling at all that the stuff around it that makes it so, the what's going on in the political arena and stuff like that has been the reason for why people feel like it's more accepted?
I think
More
that's one of the
acceptable?
main reasons, just how much it's played out in the news with everything that's going on. It's not shamed in the same way that it was before, I think.
Mm.
And just that lack of consequence, I believe, spurs a lot of people to just keep repeating that behavior.
Yeah,
Without
and you're
realizing that there is an option.
Right.
We're
There
laughing
is
here because before we got on, Megumi, in one of her dry jokes, said, what did you say, Megumi? People not
uh,
saying anything at all.
right, they don't realize it's an option to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to tell that joke.
Right, you might
um,
think it, but you don't have to say it out loud.
Yeah, yeah, we all and we have no problem with what you think at all. What we have
mhm,
a problem with is what you do.
Right,
right.
you always have the right to remain silent, and some people don't use that right.
Right. Not even legally.
And they
Personally, they
need
don't
to,
care.
huh?
Yeah. Gosh. Do you find
Oh
yourself
my
in your
god.
community talking more about what the government has tried to put forward as the reason and the law that they needed to use to keep people who are supposedly undocumented um, incarcerated because they tried to evoke, or I think they're still trying, but the courts have been turning down so far, to evoke the law that imprisoned people in this country because of a war, or they use the example of a war for different prison Japanese Americans. And there's still this country's still paying the price for that. But how did you have that conversation within your community about this very thing?
To be honest, not explicitly. My dad doesn't really. I guess because he came to this country back in the 70s when that had already happened. He didn't. Nobody in my family personally experienced the internment camps. We didn't. We don't have family on the West Coast who went through those things. I know some of my friends' families, maybe their grandparents had people. It was either their grandparents or their grandparents knew people who had been part of that. but I personally have not had specific conversations about that topic with anybody in the community.
Um, yeah, I haven't had any conversations with anybody of my friends that would have remembered or should have. The families were part of that. But I know that in our community, we've had a lot of conversation about it, and
Mm,
it it. I don't think that we're any. Donnie and I are particularly raw or feel it differently than other people because we had that book that we presented to the world. But I think that the connection for people is, I think, one of the things that's hard for people to do in their head if they don't want to connect the two because it's such a painful thought. The experience has been nothing but presented as painful. So
mm,
just thinking about having that come to fruition again and it be people that could, any of us could be pegged for it as um, the group that should be incarcerated, take their livelihood, their land, their goods, everything from them, and then tell them to, my bad, start again.
right. Yeah, it's really hard to just it's it's your whole life. It's not just that one person, it's everybody that's affected by that person's family, that person's friends,
Mhm.
neighbors, anybody in the community that's been touched by that person, they're also affected as well, and it's a huge ripple effect for sure.
And not
Right.
even and we're experiencing this now. You don't even have to be their neighbor or friend. Us seeing this in the news scares
Mm,
us and makes us feel awful about several things about what happened to that person, about the fact that we live in an administration that would do that, in a country that would do that when it's
right,
always touted itself as a country of laws. It also has a chilling effect on the rest of us, which I think is part of the impact or the intent in the first place, stay in line or this could happen to you too. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're not just dealing with that person and that group. It's
right.
really impacting all of
It's
us.
everyone.
When you take the law
When-
out of it, to me, you lose everything. And I'm not just saying that as a lawyer, but when you don't have the law, which is what we've always depended on to be able to be our guide, and you need that when you've got 300 million people that you're dealing with. If you take that out of the equation, everything else is up for grabs. I mean, we have no clue. You can't say, well, you couldn't do that because there's no legal basis for it. Because it's like, what legal basis? We don't need a legal basis. It's crazy. Or you made a
It
mistake.
is.
Oops, my bad. We're not going to change it. I mean, it drives me crazy. Renee,
Yeah,
you were saying
it's
what?
our, it's this is our legacy as a country. We've done this
Mm,
over and over and over and over to nauseum. It is every other culture is a problem. Every one of us, Native
As opposed to
Americans,
an
the
opportunity.
enslaved people, right? The Chinese when they brought the Chinese over, the Italians when they came, the Catholics when they. I mean, it's just and on. And you think that people would just get tired of this. It just is tiring. And I wasn't alive then. I'm tired thinking about all of the things that have continued to happen. And we have still not been able to round this corner of
mhm.
getting people to recognize that the there are no others. You are the other. Every time you try to other someone, you just othered yourself.
Right,
And yeah,
And different from does not mean less than.
right.
right. Absolutely.
It's just that is so huge. And you're right, Renee. I mean, over and over and over, that lesson has not been learned yet. And it's all about the lessons. And they still haven't learned it. People keep relating what's happening now to Nazi Germany. They don't even have to cross the water. Okay. back after the Civil War ended, for that
Mhm.
period of Reconstruction, we had the same kind of violence. We had people who were elected to office, Black folks who were elected to office, legitimately taken out of office. We
Mm.
had some of them killed. People were violently taken, their property was taken away. I mean, everything that we think of as American that they had started to deal with was taken away. Um, and there's this idea that was pretty amazing considering they would have anything at all, despite the fact that they were released with nothing. 4 million people who owned nothing, had nothing, were banned from having education, still managed to try to make a life and to rise up, and that just made them targets. So it's not even like this is something we have to look to some other country for.
Right.
This is our history, and the thing about that is, and this is an important piece for me, we love the country anyway. We know you. We see you. We know how you are. We know what you've done. It does not make us hate you. It makes us want to help make you better, right? Because people say you wouldn't. It's like you would if you wouldn't say that if you love this country. I'm not sure why talking about history means you hate your country. That
Right.
just doesn't make sense to me. But you love
Mm.
it anyway, and because you believe in the promise of what the founding documents said, even though folk like me and Renee were not included in that, neither were you. You still think, well, today is today. We've learned better. We do better. So we take you at your word. You say
Mhm.
everybody's treated equal. Okay, we just are trying to hold you to that. And all of a
Right.
sudden, that becomes a bad thing, or our kids can't know that because they'll get upset. What? Nobody ever talked about me getting upset talking about slavery, sitting in that class, and there have actually been classes where they had the kids go out and pick cotton.
Oh.
What?
Yes, in real life, and up until
Wow.
probably the
What?
'90s or so, or late '80s, that used to be part of UGA's homecoming. The fraternities and sororities with the big houses with the columns and all of that
That is that
would
is
hire
insane.
local kids. They would put cotton out there and hire local kids to come for the parade that goes down the streets, and they would be all dressed in antebellum costumes. I mean, that is just not history that's a long time ago. And, there would still be people, they fought, like in 2015, they finally banned those kind of costumes.
2015?
2015. In fact, I was in Italy with a study abroad class when they did
Unbelievable.
it, and we discussed it, and they just couldn't understand why until, of course, we had a conversation. And
Gosh.
it's like, "Oh, okay, I see that." Because to them, it was just
Mhm.
a costume, and it's like, it's
Mm.
so much more than a costume. That
It
is
didn't carry the same meaning to them.
oh,
Okay.
no,
Ask
it just
yourself why
it
you're wearing it. Ask yourself why are you doing that? What is
but
it? What are you
they can only
emulating?
think about one side of that. It's like, "Oh, I look
Mhm.
like Scarlett O'Hara, and this looks beautiful," and it's like, "But my family was trying to take care of that dress that you have on, okay? And y'all weren't paying us to do that, and we had to make sure you had your food and you were clean and all of the rest of that stuff." That just was not part of the equation. Once they
Right.
thought about it, that was a different story. Then they could see it, and I didn't have to make them see it. It's just they had not heard that part of the story before. And,
They just
like
didn't
most
hurt
adults,
them.
you just take what you're given at face value, right?
Mm.
So that's the only part that you ever were presented, and that's the part that made sense to you. So that's the part that you were looking at. But once
So
you
every
were
year
told,
you have the Germans go down, march down the street in Nazi regalia, and that's supposed to make everybody feel okay. I mean, this
"Oh,
is just
don't even try
to
making that
understand it.
comparison. Don't
We
try
understand.
making that comparison." I got in trouble with that for
Oh,
my
why?
letters to the editor about it. Oh my God, people just and this was about the flag, and I just gave as an example. I said, if we had flags that glorified Hitler and statues and all this kind of stuff. Oh my God, I wrote that. And again, I wasn't even saying this was the same thing. I said, think about what we use representations like flags and statues for. So, we
Mhm.
use them to aggrandize something that we really believe in. And I use this example, why we don't do certain things. And I use that. People had a fit. Finally, somebody, and I don't go with it back and forth there for letters to the editor, but somebody wrote in and basically cussed the folk out who were getting on me for saying that and said, this is true. I don't know why you're calling her out for saying this, but it's like they didn't want to hear anything that compared them, that made that comparison to them, because in their head, it was totally different. Totally different.
That's sad.
It really is.
And I guess that we shouldn't be too surprised about that because, everything that's happening in Gaza is just fine.
Well, I think the thing that's scariest for me now is that before it was sort of localized, I think most of us would have thought this is the South, even though maybe you knew it was happening in other places. Now it's just, and maybe it's social media that makes it so that's able to happen, but it's like it's all over.
Right.
Yeah. Which
Even
is
in other countries too.
scarier.
You see it happen.
Yeah.
And like I'm on on Twitter, I follow some Japanese account, so it's kind of like you have different sections of Twitter and you have like the Japanese Twitters. I've been following some of those accounts, and there are a lot of people that are hating on foreigners. I think especially like after the 2020 or I guess it was 2021 technically, but after the Tokyo Olympics, I think the tourism kind of increased over there, and there's been a lot of hate towards foreigners because you see there's those news about foreigners doing stupid things like writing on sacred temple walls or climbing things that they shouldn't, and they see that, and then that's their representation of foreigners, and then they just kind of have this automatic, oh, foreigners are all stupid, they don't deserve to be in this country, they need to get the heck out of here. But that's not stupid. People are stupid, but that has nothing to do with them being foreign. They're just tourists in a country. Not everyone's doing these stupid things, but they're grouping them together. Like you see that happen over here as well.
Yeah.
Well, and then you've got, and that's like individual, somebody goes over, they do something stupid to a monument and somebody reacts to it. But last week, the white South African ambassador said that Trump was leading a global white supremacy movement. So in addition to the individual reactions to it, you have the sort of larger picture. And in addition to that, it didn't help matters that basically Trump said, I don't like y'all's equity policies, your diversity policies, so we're not going to allow you to get favorable tariffs from us or treatment from us, do away with them. Sent him a letter about that. Well, wow. It's like they have a history, in fact, a very recent history that allowed for them to put those provisions for equity coming out of apartheid in place. And to have somebody from another country, a leader of another country, tell you, you have to get rid of those or we're not going to basically allow you to play in our sandbox makes no sense at all.
You have to subjugate we're going to make you feel like we're going to enslave you again by taking your ability to, I guess,
act as an autonomous country. And this isn't like, the opposite, which is usually human rights violations, right? That would be a way that we would use that. Here, it's exactly the opposite. You're doing something that's inclusive, especially based on the history of your country, and they're saying, no, you can't have that, which is just crazy. And of course, does sound like you're trying to lead this worldwide white supremacy kind of movement.
You're going to find out how very few white people there actually are in this country, in this world. They're just
Mm.
not
The other
numbers.
thing is the South Africans are saying, like, the white South Africans, like, we need this. Like, why do you want us to get rid of this? We know we did wrong. We need this.
Mm.
No,
Right?
I'm the president of the US, so I know better than you do what to do with your
Oh,
country,
God.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that just
Rules
it's just
everything we
crazy.
do.
But it certainly gives the kind of people that you're talking about who would use immigrants, use that kind of negative. I don't even know what you call it when you take it from the individual to the group and just paint the whole group as negative. It just gives them fodder. It's like, yep, see, it's okay with him because, of course, they know how he's treating immigrants here as well.
Mm.
It's called white supremacy. I mean, it's the same thing over and over.
I have not wanted to
Tiring.
face. I have not wanted to come to that conclusion, despite all the stuff that's gone on. I mean, the whole reason for having something like this, his first day in office, he tries to get rid of DEI and then sends out memos, the last of which was just, a week or so ago, just really trying to stamp out every single possible uh, manifestation of it.
Mhm.
Despite all of that, despite what he was doing with the immigrants, I wasn't forgiving it at all. I just didn't want to put that label on it. But you know what? You keep acting like a duck and you keep quacking and you got feathers and you try to fly. I'm just going to have to finally call you a duck.
He does waddle though, so
Oh, Lord.
Renee, you see what I mean about this
Yeah.
woman?
Oh, man.
y'all have seen it too, right? He does
This
waddle,
movie.
right?
The truth was out. The truth was out. I'll tell
Well,
you.
with those feet he had, those swollen ankles, that Venus kind of that's going on. But I really
I love
this
the bone
this
spurs.
is the, we I think it's agreed, love our country, right? And if we didn't, we would we wouldn't be here.
Mhm.
We want it to succeed, whoever is in office. That
Mm.
goes back and forth all the time. And we don't care.
Mhm.
We just want the country to be taken care of as they are in office. And I think our frustration this time around is that we're not getting the feeling that that's what's going on at all. So it's not about hating the country, not loving it, not liking
Right.
him. It's the country we want taken care of. Our laws we want obeyed. People to be respected. I mean, that's like basic. And when you do
Right.
things like, you know, mock somebody who's disabled, who's a reporter who's reporting on you, do this kind of thing with it. I mean, people don't feel respected. When you put
Right.
up mocking cartoons after something happens, like what was it on Valentine's Day? They put up that cartoon about immigrants getting out of here or something. And they put up another one recently. I mean, you just don't feel respected. You don't feel like the law is being honored. You don't feel like people are being respected. You have the feeling that it's really all about some sort of agenda that you have that does not include
Mhm.
people that don't look like you. It's just kind of
I
hard
don't
to
know if
get
it's a feeling. It's not just a feeling for me. I have objective
around. I'm
evidence.
still
I
trying to
mean, the president
hesitate.
of our United States sent a doctored AI video of the former president of the United States being arrested in the Oval Office, taken down by tackle almost. This was the president of the United States that forwarded that shit, that shit out to everybody else, and it just forces us to. We have to eat it, right? We have to keep doing that. I'm just not okay with this. I'm not okay that the people who need to stand up. I mean, people should be completely everyone. I don't care what your political predilection is. Just whatever goes out that office is okay. Just seems to be okay, and so we just keep minimizing the buffer to not be to not be moved in or swept up in that madness. But there's just
normalizing that
this keeps
behavior.
happening.
And you're right, Renee. And we are not, and this was very intentional on our part. Our show was never intended to, lambast anybody, to be negative. It's just that if you're dealing with these issues and this kind of stuff keeps happening, it's just, it comes off as negative for some, I'm sure, who agree with those policies that we happen not to, because we believe they're unconstitutional and illegal. But the truth is, it is what it is. It speaks for itself. And I can't soft pedal that stuff. I mean, as a lawyer, if nothing else, I can't soft pedal it and say what's happening is not happening or does not have the kind of impact that it is having on people. I mean, it is. It's just having a really negative impact. And when we've seen what that can do, for instance, Megumi, I'm sure you remember when COVID happened, people started actually, it didn't even matter. We talked before about people not being able to tell the difference between somebody who's Chinese, somebody who's Japanese, somebody who's Korean. And they started attacking people in the street from this, Chinese flu or whatever it was he called it. I mean, it was just, people heard that and they reacted to that,
Right.
In a really negative way, with no regard for the human beings that this was going to impact in a really negative way, who had nothing to do with COVID whatsoever.
Right. Right. We're just here living our lives. We're just being ourselves. You
Yeah.
can't you see somebody, the highest office in the country, you hear them calling, I think he said China virus or something like that.
Yeah.
And attacking, mocking Asians. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
you see that, and then you have to somehow follow through. You think, oh, he said that, so I can go ahead and say that too. I don't understand how I don't know. It's
Frustrating.
It defies
incomprehensible.
understanding. Yes,
Yeah.
it does. It just, for me, when you've done that and seen what the impact can be, he was a babe in the woods when it came to politics. I mean, he had not held public office before and stuff like that. And I was cutting him some slack initially. Because I worked at the White House, I worked on the Hill. I know it's a whole culture. You have to get used to it. And there are lots of things that you don't see from the outside that you see once you're there. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes a difference. Like, I don't have the same reaction to presidents that somebody else who may not have been on the inside and seen what that was like from that point of view does, because I know how easily it can be mistaken. But when even cutting him that kind of slack, there's stuff you don't do as a human being. And
Right.
maybe if you didn't know how powerful your voice was because you hadn't held this office before, and you had only had lots of people know who you were through something like a TV show, maybe you don't understand the impact of it. And once you do, then you realize, oh, there's certain things I can't say because I know there are going to be people who hear it and are going to go act on it, right? January 20th was a real good example of that.
Right.
He sort of never got that memo, or he liked
No.
it and said,
January
I think
6th.
he did like
I
it.
like
Yeah.
January 6th.
things to people. I like the fact that I call it a Chinese flu and people start beating down Asians in the street who were doing
It's
nothing.
that growth on power type of feeling, because it's not, he wasn't president before maybe, but he was a public figure. He should have known how big his influence was. I mean, that's why he was peddling those Trump steaks or whatever it was. And
University steaks, the
I think
television
was there like
shows.
a Trump university as well, and it's so you had to have some kind of idea what your influence was, and then you go ahead and use that in the most negative way possible to hurt people.
Mhm. Yeah, because he said that he was coming back. He's their retribution, except that he's really his retribution. He's not worried about anybody else. And this whole thing about Jews, being uh, there, I keep saying that there's all this anti-Jew, anti-Semitism stuff going on. That's just BS. It's not happening like that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's not to the scale that the president needs to put his foot down and get colleges in order. It's just bullshit. And I'm
Especially
just,
when you still have that
oh,
same history, Renee, of all these other people as well, and you're going to kill DEI, but think it's okay to protect another group because you understand what's going on with them and them being treated badly? What? That's just
you just
talk
understand
about
money. That's all they
cognitive.
understand. As soon as Black people or Japanese or Chinese people or any other E's can finally get to the point where they can afford to buy a politician, then that's the only time we will matter. Any of us will matter. So the Jews have been able to, Jews from Israel have been able to finance careers over in this country for lots and lots and lots of politicians. For I guess just this day here, I think this is part of a bigger thing. I think that the Netanyahu 30 years of crying wolf has finally, he cried wolf to the right wolf and took his way. And now we're in this together. We are starving people to death. We are making sure that we demean any of the people that are still alive. They're making sure that there are plenty of raping going on, just indiscriminate raping. I don't know that there will be discriminate raping, but just all happening right there you can see it. Anybody can see it. And you're going to tell me, you're trying to convince me that there's no starving. Awesome. When you said that's what you were going to do, and you're now doing it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, again, people didn't buy a pig in a poke. The man told you up front who he was, what he was going to do. He said he was going to be worse second time around, and he kept his word.
I just didn't know
that's one thing he did
everybody would be
not.
okay with him stealing our money. I just didn't think everybody would be just lay down Larry's for you're taking our federal dollars and putting them in your pocket. I think that everybody should go to work tomorrow and put in a W-4, change it down to 0, and then don't give the government any. Let them come after you since they made the IRS this big. Make them come after you. Done. I don't know why we should give them any money. Every time you go to work and that paycheck has money in there for them, I mean, you might as well just send it over to Donald Trump himself. Take it over to Mar-a-Lago. We can't get in, but you'll be able to, leave your money. He's fine with that. I'm cynical, very, very cynical.
And I'm such an optimist, an optimist. I could not do the work I do if I was not. But again, I ain't crazy either. I mean, it is what it is. When you see it and it keeps happening, you just have to face what's going on.
Right. I don't know why some people are surprised by him now. They're like, oh, that's not what I voted for. That's not what he said he was going to do. But it is what he said he was going to do.
Where were you watching TV?
About?
What rallies did you go to? Every chance he got. I mean, it was, if he did not say, I mean, he's still saying it all. He goes over to Europe, talks to the prime minister, and guess what? We got to talk about how everyone's coming after me. The country is a failing country. It was never any good under Biden. We're going to make it better, but it just keeps failing. But don't watch it. Don't watch what's happening. Just listen to my words. That's all that's going to matter. As if we can take those to the bank. Oh, wait, there's no banks because we don't have money. Because why do we need money? I mean, I'm just trying to think of what do you think is actually going to happen to the people, the human beings in this country with no health insurance, with no money from a paycheck to be able to pay your increasing rent every year. Can't buy a house because the interest rates can't drop because the country is trying to hold on to money. And so you can't drop the interest rates.
Because of the uncertainty created around his policies. Corporations don't know what to do.
Mm.
The suppliers for their own materials, for the things that they manufacture, they have no idea how to plan. That impacts everybody.
And we were part of a failing country, and now we're failing more, according to everything that's happening. I don't need your words to tell me anything. I know who Donald Trump is. He's always been that person before he was even president, before he even thrown his hat into the ring. He was a grifter, and he just, he's just user. He's just a user.
Renee,
And
I don't think people thought, even though he had that kind of background, I really don't think people, because we had never seen it in a leader of his stature, the president, I don't think people had that in their reality thought process, because it wasn't possible. I mean, who would have a president that ignored the law, or that Congress would totally bow down to, or the Supreme Court, which breaks my heart, would bow down to? I mean, that wasn't anywhere we couldn't think that thought, because it just wasn't anything that was ever in our head possible until it was.
That's because we're the people that they take advantage of. Why they don't care that they convince us that, and we'll believe whatever, because we don't want to ever believe that this is how people at that level will act. But the thing is, everybody at that level knows that's how they act. So they're just okay now with just like taking the veil off.
Well, I'm not saying they were crystal clear about what they were doing. I mean, we always know, in order to even get that high, there's going to be some trade-offs that you do. Okay.
Trade-offs, but
this was
sold your whole constituency out, your whole entire
no, but that's what I'm saying. This was
huge.
Totally beyond the pale. It's one thing to know that if somebody gives you a $500,000 contribution, they're going to expect something in return for their policies when you get in office. But it's another thing to completely turn on the people who got you there in the first place, which is. And that it had to take.
It doesn't matter. And he told everybody, it doesn't matter. You can vote for me. This is the last time you'll have to vote. This is the last time anybody's going to have to be worried about that. The reason why I know that eventually we're going to have a lot of work to do, but eventually all this thing will blow up, because everything Donald Trump touches goes to hell in a handbasket. Everything. Every marriage, every child, every deal, 7 bankruptcies later, this is who we want to put in charge of running the government. You put him in charge of the thing you don't know how to do.
And convicted, 34 count.
Convicted felonies later. That happened later. Before that, he wasn't convicted, but he definitely going to court about his own businesses. We can't do business in New York anymore. This is before he was before the second time. And you knew. Now he's a felon. Now the kind of country we have is a country that will elect a felon. But if you commit a felony, you will not be able to keep that job that you have. And I can guarantee you that you won't be able to keep any other one, especially if you took money and you work in something that has to do with money, generating money, or money, whatever it is. You are persona non grata if you commit a crime.
Which is interesting. I saw somebody who said, Trump says that, he's getting rid of immigrants who have committed crimes, or immigrants who committed crimes. And they said, he's a convicted felon and his wife is an immigrant. Like, tell me what that means. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's all BS. It's whatever, the whole thing about it's anti-Semitism. It's just all talk. It's whatever it makes you, just sizes you up, and also keeps my people who are going to pay me money happy.
Megumi, do you have a sense that, given the kind of stuff that's happened, sort of all of it, but specifically with the immigrants, and when I say all of it, I mean going back on his word, saying one thing, doing another, or telling you right up front what he's going to do, that even your status being born here is not as certain as you thought it was at one time?
Oh, absolutely. It's he said he was going to go after immigrants or like, you know, illegal immigrants at first. I'm not an illegal immigrant. I should feel safe. But then when he starts going after legal immigrants, even native born people of color, it's like, am I going to get stopped on the street? Do I need to carry my passport? Is my passport even going to matter? That that thought has definitely come into my mind more than once.
Mm.
And it should, because there is no stopping this person. Look, if I can get rid of this group and I get the satisfaction of having done it, well, then there's other things I want to get rid of too, aren't there? Let me get rid of this group because I can and I will. And I'll just get rid of this group. So anytime it happens to one of us, it's happening to all of us. And we all need to be ready. And I don't know what ready looks like for you. Ready looks like something different for me. But we just need to be ready for it. It will happen. If it doesn't, if you think it's not going to happen, then you are not ready. You're not ready to meet the moment.
You know, I'm sort of afraid, you know, I follow a lot of the stuff that's happening with higher education. And I saw the other day a stat that was talking about the incoming class and its composition and how much since the Supreme Court decision a couple of years ago about admissions, um, the numbers of people of color have gone down as students, but the number of Asians had gone up. Like it's really high, and I'm thinking, first thing I thought when I saw that was, okay, and he's been going after the schools in every way you can think of, taking away grants, taking away their status, taking away their accreditation. I mean, every way that a school could operate, he has hit in some way, shape, or form. And I'm thinking, that is not going to be okay with him. He is going to say that is too many Asians who are being admitted to schools, and there must be a problem. In fact, last week, just like day before yesterday, he sent out, it was either an executive order or a memo wanting the racial composition of every uh, college in the US, right?
Ooh,
And it was like, why would you want that? Like, what do
right.
you plan to do with those numbers? And when I saw the really elite schools have the real high number of Asians, it was like, now we know that for a whole lot of reasons that have nothing to do with genetics and everything to do with acculturation, Asians can very often have really high grades. And we talked about how, it makes a difference if your motivation is having to look at your mama tell you with that look in her eye, I'm disappointed, right? But for me, those numbers end up meaning one thing, like, whoa, they are just like kicking butt when it comes to studying and doing tests and stuff like that, as opposed to that's DEI, so they need to get out of here, or thinking up a way to get them out of here, because as far as you're concerned, that should be, those numbers should be white folks in there, not any sort of people of color, Asians, anything else. And you know the numbers of people of color, especially Black folks, Hispanic, those are low anyway. So we ain't even talking about them. It's like they ain't even on the board for some of these folks. And then you look at those Asian numbers, and it's like, I know they're gonna be next. I know he's gonna go after them in some way, shape, or form, and you can't even figure out how
He's already
because
started with the Chinese. He's already started pulling back people's visas.
well, yes, that
That's
is
true.
one of the
That's
ways that he did it, but he did that through immigration. And he did that through visas, right? He used that. Here, these people who were simply born here and happened to be Asian and studied their butts off and got into those schools, and
Mhm.
but they are part of those numbers. And because again, this is what happens when you take law off the table. ordinarily we would look at it and say, well, there's no way he can attack this because, these are all people who are absolutely qualified, except that doesn't matter for him.
Right.
And he'll just come up and make up some crap as to
Qualified is being white. I mean, look at his whole
Mm.
administration. The whole administration is nothing but one big number of people that have been thrown in together from Fox News Network, and who's, of course, is their propaganda network. And they've been given jobs that they have no idea what to do. And the first thing Pete Hegseth did was put us all on blast, right? These are not classified. Step one of war plans not classified. I mean, it just doesn't even. You're not even making sense logically. But this is the bullshit you want to feed us. Okay, keep talking.
or the World Wrestling Federation, I think it is, and what was it, A1 in schools?
Oh
Instead
God!
of AI, it's like, oh my God, we're in such fucking trouble.
We were doing a lot of work with A1. The sauce? I'm thinking steak.
I know you had some thoughts about that one, Megumi. When you take the law out of it, I'm afraid for those absolutely qualified academically students and their ability to continue to matriculate at these institutions of higher education.
There's no
Right.
law about it.
What is the law even anymore? You were following, you knew what the rules were, you followed those rules, you got into the school following those rules. Those rules aren't even real anymore? Now what? It doesn't.
They keep moving the goalposts. This is what Black people know. We've been trying to talk to people all the time for years, and they don't get it. They continue to move the goalposts. It doesn't. You get to this point. Oh well, we got to change the rules, and now it's this.
Right.
This is all the voting thing. They're starting to vote now. They're coming out in droves. We got to go ahead and take them. Make sure that we suppress them somehow. So we're going to do all these things that are illegal, which seem to be okay to do now that it's illegal.
Right. They always have to rig the game because that's the only way that they can somehow get ahead.
Exactly.
Or even be equal.
Get ahead what? I mean, I thought this was a country where everybody's meritocracy, right? And as it turns, not so much. How about a meritocracy?
That's over. That as soon as you hire your cronies, you've blown that argument. It's over. But you keep saying these words, and I don't know why people keep being okay with it. That's why the town halls are so important to me, because that's the town halls are what restores my faith. Because I've seen people who would never have spoken out, speaking out, and that is a good
they
thing.
are pissed off, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and they should be.
Yeah,
we all should be. Because in order for you to come stand here and tell me about how you're doing this for me, and I know damn good and well, I'm your constituent, I'm telling you I don't want this. And you keep trying to tell me in the conversation in front of all the other people here why it's supposed to be good for me. And I don't want to hear you speaking because I'm paying you to speak. You're coming here. This is what your job is. You're supposed to come here to speak to me. And they act as if they are doing people favors. They are acting as if they are so.
Well, they told them not to do it because of exactly what you're talking about. They told them don't hold those town halls.
Sure do. But I have a few questions just before you go. Real rapid fire question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Mine too. What's your favorite movie?
At the moment, it's the third Paddington movie, Paddington in Peru.
What?
Paddington reminds me of my dog.
Of your what?
Of my dog.
Your
my
dog?
dog's name is Paddington, so
Oh my gosh. I would not have expected that as somebody who doesn't have any kids that I only see these movies like that because I have people that are of age to watch them and I have to watch them with them. I didn't expect to hear that one, so okay. Checking out Paddington now. Okay, and then if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I don't know, maybe Iceland would be cool to check out.
literally.
if we can go out of this world, maybe I'd like to go to Mars and just see how the living situations are there, because we might have to move there
Wow.
soon.
So don't hit your wagon to Elon, please.
Oh,
No, I'm not. No.
Good. His last spaceship,
Oh,
debris everywhere, and then he said they
Mhm.
need to clean it up. Those people in that third world country need to clean that up. So
wow.
anyway, yeah. Well, that's interesting, Iceland, but like you said, it's cool. Literally.
she is not the norm, is she? I love it.
That's so much
On
fun.
being you, Megumi, because you are awesome.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. I enjoyed talking with you guys too. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
the pleasure.